Hey there gamers, DreamcastGuy here. Today we're talking about Starfield. Well, not Starfield, we're talking about Elder Scrolls 6, which sounds like it's going to be an absolute train wreck. And it's not even going to come out now for years and years in the future. So I was just eating some chicken nuggets, I was watching Kinda Funny Games Daily, and they actually had a special guest today. Mr. Skyrim himself, Todd Howard, came on to talk about the future of Elder Scrolls 6, the state of Bethesda, and it sounds like a bunch of mistakes that are already being made with this. And the internet is instantly just roasting it. But let's talk, because even now, as Todd Howard admits the mistakes that Bethesda is making, he seems dedicated to repeating them. Hi, hope you're having a great day. If you could please give this video a like and subscribe if you like random daily off-the-cuff news stuff. But let's start with this, right? We're going to go through his whole quotes bit by bit, but let's just start with the fact that he completely does acknowledge one big mistake. They showed Elder Scrolls 6 as a logo how many years ago, right? We now know that this was basically just an upfront lie. Essentially, at the time, the Elder Scrolls 6 was revealed basically to pump up the value of Bethesda. This is before Xbox bought them out. And clearly, they thought that if they showed a logo about the future potential Skyrim 2, that would pump up the value. They'd get an extra $1 billion for basically having a PNG floating over some blank assets. But he straight up says, I acknowledge that the Elder Scrolls 6 was announced far too early. I mean, everybody knows why we announced it that way. It's not my preference. It's going to be a while yet. I feel bad because everyone wants information. It has now been years and years and years. It's been like 8 years since they showed the logo, and still not a single second, not a tree, not a random piece of armor, not the location. We literally know nothing about a game that gave us the logo over almost a decade ago, right? But wait, it actually gets a lot worse. Now, here's the main bread and butter that I want to talk about, which is that game engines are incredibly crucial to game development. Essentially, it's the core DNA of everything being constructed on top of it. And there are good engines and bad engines. There are people that actually make good engines run bad. And of course, there's people that manage to run really good games in bad engines. It's not the be-all, end-all. But famously, one of the very worst game engines in the entire world is the Creation Engine. Bethesda is obsessed with having their own sort of kit to make their games. They don't let anybody else use it. It doesn't seem like anybody else wants to use it. I mean, you can kind of just ask the question, why is it that anybody else at Xbox ever asks to use this? You know, the PlayStation studios borrow the Guerrilla Games engine, Decima. Nobody's really borrowing Creation Engine, and there's a good reason for that, right? Not only does Creation Engine just break constantly, but a lot of people kind of blame it for the rigidness and the bad performance of stuff like Starfield, right? Elder Scrolls 6 is going back to being a more classic Bethesda game, aka Oblivion and Skyrim, says Todd Howard. Now, immediately, a lot of people are also clocking that as a lie because, oh yeah, didn't they also say that about the Shattered Space DLC, the worst piece of DLC that's ever been released by Bethesda? But let's focus on the other part of it. The game is running on the Creation Engine 3, upgraded from Starfield. Now, everybody instantly not happy about that. Why aren't you using Unreal Engine? Everybody at this point is using Unreal Engine. You can have problems with Unreal Engine. Definitely has issues. I think Unreal Engine right now is the global standard. 99% of all AAA games use Unreal Engine because it definitely scales so high. Big budget games undeniably look way, way better when you're using that lighting engine and stuff, right? But they're just obsessed with their own stupid proprietary engine. You know, this is a tweet from before Starfield came out. Here it is, 2023, right? Here's Reb's Game Time about it. Starfield runs on Bethesda's new Creation Engine 2, which took a very long time to develop. It allows them to create volumetric lighting and fog and illumination. Todd Howard says, we're able to do in the game. We have all these things looking amazing and running from all the items that we're simulating in people's spaceships, full planets. Our lighting model is awesome. Now, I famously got into some arguments with some Starfield developers because I thought Starfield runs like hot garbage. That thing ran at like 20 frames a second at launch, and now I think it's up to 60 FPS finally, but that game ran bad. And straight up, the developers told me to my face, they actually told me this line specifically. It's that the creation engine is constantly keeping track of every item in the entire universe. If I set my character's controller right here, I set something down very, very carefully, or I put my chicken nuggets in my spaceship. All right, here's my chicken nuggets. The game has to constantly be simulating the chicken nuggets, the games, everything simultaneously, and because of it, it runs like trash. This may be cool as like a gimmick. Wow, it's neat that everything's going at the same time. But I just think that a lot of people are thinking that creation engine itself is the problem, right? There's the thing where you can even see Halo had its own engine. They're moving to Unreal and stuff. A bad engine can hurt a product. I'm going to make an analogy, right? So I edit all my videos in Adobe Premiere, and Adobe Premiere is used in Hollywood a lot. Pretty much all the movies and TV shows you like the most, whether it is like the movie Sinners or that awesome Zach Krieger film Weapons and stuff, or even stuff like I'm currently watching the TV show Barry. All of those are edited in the same program as I'm using right here to make this video, right? But they're obviously much better editors. They're able to use this very limited program in a very, very big way. There are bad editing programs. When I first started as a YouTuber, I used a free disk I found for something called Pinnacle 12. It ran so bad, I could only put 3 things into the thing at the same time, and it would break. The audio and video would desync constantly. A bad editing program is very much like a bad game engine. It holds back even the best ideas. Honestly, the fact that they're still so insistent on it, I think that this is honestly going to end up hurting it. This obsession with, hey, we have to make this all completely ourselves, it's stupid, and in a lot of ways, some people think that Todd Howard is egotistical. This feels like that Todd Howard ego. Now, let's talk about the other part of it. Todd Howard says that Elder Scrolls 6 is going back to this more classic feel. This is the thing. I just don't believe it. I'm really in the space now where they're trying to say, oh, we took a creative detour making Fallout 76 and Starfield, but we're going back to that classic style that we've missed. A lot of people are just straight up calling them liars. But it's also the fact that this is just a strange statement specifically from Bethesda because, you know, when some companies talk about that, right? Let's use an example, Square Enix. I'm very obsessed with Final Fantasy, and some people have really been begging specifically for Final Fantasy to go back to their roots. Turn-based combat, or tinier stories, quicker production cycles, stuff like that, right? Growing up with Final Fantasy was cool because we got the game so fast, and the stories were so incredibly different. Whereas now, you get one Final Fantasy every 3 to 8 years, and that does kind of suck. And a lot of people are kind of talking about the fact that if there is that long lineage, there is an homage to pay homage to. Whereas when it comes to this, Elder Scrolls 6 being like the classic games, that means Elder Scrolls 5. That means Elder Scrolls 4. It's just super silly to me. The full statement, I actually have it transcribed here. In many ways, Fallout 76 and Starfield were a little bit of a creative detour and of that classic Elder Scrolls Fallout where you're exploring the world in a creative way. As we come back to Elder Scrolls 6, what we're doing now, we're trying to get that classic style. Now, he does say, we're happy with Elder Scrolls 6 is where it's headed, but it's probably going to be a long way away. I think that he's talked about that. Maybe this doesn't have the clip right here, but he basically is talking about the fact that Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be coming years and years and years away from now. And at the same time, it's not really going to be that different. It's not really going to be that advanced. I am still in a spot where before Starfield came out, a lot of the excitement was Skyrim in space. Instead, it turned out to be a loading screen in space. It turned out to be boredom in space, empty planets, crappy quest hubs, and more fast travel than you could shake a long stick at. Elder Scrolls 6, I got zero hype for it. I don't think this game is going to be the next Skyrim. I think it's going to be the next Starfield. Bad performance and all. But how do you feel about this? Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video and if you are hopeful for Elder Scrolls 6, tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and please keep dreaming. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.